My family had been, they'd been pretty bored. We'd been cooped up in the house for, I guess, about a week or so, and we really needed to get out, get some fresh air. Some of us were starting to look pale, and we needed to do something to get some energy back. So we decided that we were going to go hiking at a nearby park that was about 20 minutes away from our house, and we'd just go exploring and stuff, even though we had been there many times before, but it looks really cool, and we thought, hey, why not? As soon as we got to the park, we stopped at the restrooms before we headed out, and we saw a boat, like an RV boat that was in the water right underneath the bridge at the entrance. And a couple minutes later, a guy comes out of the restroom and he grabs his remote and he starts driving the boat around. So we watched him for a couple minutes, and he said he was making the boat go like 25, 30 miles an hour, but we just started hiking and we found some ice crystals that formed on the rocks over here. So, do you think other stuff will be frozen or just this?
I think we'll see more stuff.
How about you?
Why do you always ask questions during video?
We hiked on, and pretty early on we found some ice and lots of icicles, lots of ice plates that were covering the rocks and stuff, and I had never actually seen something like this before, especially not in a place so cool looking as this park. And I thought, okay, well, we'll probably see a lot more ice as we go on, and sure enough we did. And I don't remember the hike being as challenging as it was, but it was probably not only because of the fact that I hadn't done much physical activity for the past week, but also the fact that we were going the back way that we usually went. So we started right off the bat with a really steep hike going all the way up the steep part of the mountain, and then we would gradually go back down. We've done this before, right? We've gone on this hike before.
Oh
This
my
is
goodness,
vitamin
more
stick.
times
Many
than
times.
we can count.
Vitamin
But-
stick.
We know this path well.
This time we're going backwards. We're going on the opposite path. Well, not the opposite path. We're going backwards on the normal path. And it seems we've hit the little water stream right about here. So maybe we'll play around here.
Seems very fragile. I'm gonna break this, Caleb.
What am I looking at?
What?
What am I looking at? I'm looking at the ice. Due to the fact that it is very cold out here and there are other people, I'm going to put my mask on. So in case you're wondering why I did that, that's why. We have arrived at one of my favorite parts. We're going down to the little river over here. Eventually we made our way down to the river, which is the main river that you see throughout the park. And I thought it'd be a really cool idea to increase my skill of filming and camera angles and whatnot. So I decided to use more of my GoPro throughout this little trip, and what if I were to get some shots underwater to see if it was really waterproof and do sorts of fun things. And as I was going out into the river, thinking it was really shallow, I was trying to be really cautious, but pretty soon on discovered that my foot was now freezing cold. Water had gone over my boot and right into where my foot was, and that was not very pleasant. So I walked the rest of the hike with a cold, wet foot, and honestly, even though I got some really cool angles, I still wonder if it was actually worth doing, because oh man, it was really cold.
There's no water coming out.
But your foot is definitely wet.
My foot is all wet. I can't.
We saw some more really cool ice formations. These looked more like crystals than they did actual icicles, and we looked at these for a little while, but soon moved on and eventually made it to the next little bridge where we would always stop. And it's really cool because even though this water is deeper, there's also a bunch of big rocks that you can throw in the water, and throughout this trip, Noah's main goal was to see how many giant rocks he could throw in the water, and he eventually got on our nerves a little bit, but it was still really fun. Just to see the scenery and still just being outside, being away from all the screens and being away from all the stresses of society, you know, all that stuff, but it was really fun. Finally, inner peace.
What?
The trees and the paths and everything are really cool, but my favorite part of the entire park has got to be the little creeks and rivers that you discover as you're hiking through, because just especially at this time of year, no one really goes outside as much. They don't take a closer look at what's there, and just seeing all the cool rocks and all the different ways that the water goes and the ice and everything, it was just such a good idea to go out hiking, because all I did mainly was play around in the water and stomp around in it, and I felt like a little kid again. It was a lot of fun, but we quickly moved on, and I continued to try some more of my camera angles and whatnot, getting a feel for the GoPro and the long pole that I could attach it to, and it was just so much fun. The lookout point was definitely just like how we usually remembered it. It's a really cool place where the railings, the guardrails that are there, which are made out of wood, people have carved their names into it over the years, and you can just look out across the different parts of the park. And of course, Noah had to throw some more stones in the water, so I did some slow motion videos of that, but my mom quickly urged us to keep moving, since my foot was definitely getting colder by the minute, as were my hands, and so we kept on walking, because now we were well over halfway and we were approaching the end of our hike.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Update on my foot. It's freezing and it's cold because of all the water that I stepped into, and hopefully I don't have hypothermia. We made our way back towards the place where we usually start, where the river is very shallow and you can go right down to it, and we threw some more rocks in and we skipped some stones. We saw some more ice formations. I tried to stick the camera down under the water again, and I thought that looked really, really cool. But my hands were continually cold, as was my foot, so I still wanted to get back in a timely fashion, but yeah. There is also remnants of some snow from the snowstorm we had ages ago, but it's still here, and I mean, come on now, this would be such a cool place just to like have a photo shoot, or I don't know, just something really cool. You could literally build like a little log cabin here. If it weren't an actual park, you could just build a cabin here and call it home. We are now reaching the end of the trail. Mom went all the way back to use the bathroom, but Noah's sticking here with me with his wonderful sticks, and people have looked at me occasionally very strangely for holding up a very large stick that I can use to film. So, but we're almost back. finally reached the end of the trail, and it was finally time to go to the car. I could take my boots off, I could dry off a little bit, I could finally get some feeling in my hands and in my feet. And as we got to the car, you know, I took my boots off and everything, and as we started to drive home, I realized that even though that was a 2 to 3 hour hike, that was one of the best 2 to 3 hour things, the best 2 to 3 hours of a Saturday that I had ever had in a long, long time. It was so much fun. I would definitely do it again. And as we drove home, just seeing that it went from being mostly cloudy all day to the absolutely beautiful sunset, I had to record some of that too because it was so cool. And I just can't wait to see what's in store for the rest of 2021. And I just really enjoyed this so much. So thank you, Mom and Noah, for coming out with me, and hopefully we'll be able to do it again sometime.